In early 2017, the famously eclectic Japanese game developer Yoko Taro dropped a brand new RPG. It was shiny, new, and had cute anime girls that the internet was destined to goggle at. This game was a masterpiece. Stunning graphics, a fantastic soundtrack, and super lovable characters. Yeah, but what's all the fuss about? Why should you care about some obscure Japanese title from 2 years ago? Well, sit down. I'm about to tell you. Now, while I try to avoid spoiling the entire plotline for you, you'll need to have some kind of context to get the points I'll bring up later, so consider this your warning for spoilers. Okay, you've been warned, time to move on. So, first things first, you drop into a world of NIER Automata. You start off as the cold and cynical 2B, who opens the world for us with maybe one of the most memorable opening monologues ever.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
In a few lines, this one character outlines the entire tone for the material, along with a few really major plot ideas, which we'll get to later, don't rush me. Oh, what's that you say? Her monologue's horribly cynical and misanthropic. Oh, don't worry, it gets worse. After a few fun and hack-and-slash misadventures, 2B teams up with the charismatic and procedure-breaking 9S, another bot who looks like something out of a Shutakan wet dream. 2B and 9S eventually get up into a pretty big mess, fighting this giant Goliath monster robot. He's a big hunkin' dude. And 9S gets bitch-slapped out of the sky and banged up pretty bad. 2B shows 9S her oh-so-rare compassion before regaining her normal combat personality and taking down the Goliath, before 3 more pop up around her. It is at this point both of the protagonists realize everything is fucked and commit to a kind of suicide bombing last stand type thing via black box detonation, which is like a nuke going off if you and your friend decided to fist bump. Because, robots, the pair end up respawning on a giant satellite-based thing where other robot militia people live at, which is kind of something out of a Halo franchise's worst nightmare. Only problem being is 9S's memory got wiped because he focused on uploading 2B's data before his own. Now, keep that self-sacrifice aspect in your head. It's gonna come up a lot. This is a big surprise for 2B, mainly because of reasons we learn later in the game, but also because 9S forgot their overly maybe not so subtle romantic undertones of a first date death pact that happened 20 minutes ago. After a short conversation with Space Trump, a pair set off again, with 9S now fulfilling a more permanent role as 2B's sidekick operator, making NIER Automata technically like a police buddy movie. Now, until this point, the game pretty much plays as your bog standard JRPG, but grab your hat because from here the depression train don't stop. It's also at this point the game introduces us our first philosophical element in the retelling of the Ship of Theseus paradox, which goes something like this. An android lands on Earth, gets his leg broken, gets it replaced, and moves on with killing other smaller machines on Earth that we're pretty sure came from aliens. This game's made in Japan, what did you expect? One by one, he damages and replaces everything in his time on Earth. And if he replaces everything, does that make him the same android? If you're looking for an answer, congratulations, you're right. This is just a taste of what's to come, but it perfectly sets up for what the rest of the game has to offer on that front. But people a lot smarter than me have already talked about the philosophy of this game, which is vast, informative, and so worth looking into. If you're looking for a recommendation, do it yourself. Anyways, moving on. The pair get into more misadventures fighting giant machines, basically turning the city they live into a 66 Vietnam with all the destruction. And along the way, we found out this soulless robotic husk we've been beaten up can feel pain and have families and aspirations, and they probably love little golden retriever puppies. Isn't that great? If you think this is a metaphor for whatever you're thinking about, it probably is. But I didn't start making this video to summarize the plot for you. You wanted to know why you should care, and I'm going to tell you. The truth is, if you have to ask that question, you really shouldn't care. That's pretty much the whole point of the game. Giving a shit about what happens, or at least giving a shit for the sake of giving a shit. This game revolves around 2 things. Its story, and the message it tries to tell with its story. And that's exactly why you should care. If you went into this game thinking it's going to be some soulless mind hack, hack and slash thriller with a plot line thinly veiled enough to forget about after one too many beers, you're going to be greatly disappointed. This game really shines when it makes the point that video games aren't something dumb and forgettable. It's just as viable an art form as any other medium. One thing you hear all the time about gamers or video games in general is that they're a waste of time. That they never meant anything and that it's all just fan service for people who want to see more guns, more tits, more blood. And while some games do solely rely on that as a marketing strategy, NIER demolishes that point easily. Other games, they do their best to make their villains easy to kill. They make them mindless or shells, or if you're Wolfenstein, literally fucking Hitler. But in NIER, this isn't the case. We see our enemies have compassion, or fighting for a cause that's just as noble as our own protagonist 2Bs, and for ideas that are inspiring and freeing. Yoko Taro and the rest of the NIER team did their best to make the villain sympathetic. It's not something rare in video games, but it's notable enough to remark on. Sometimes academics forget that while a new artistic medium may seem fireband and stupid, their own mediums were once considered in the same light. For example, let's take comic books. For years, at least in America, they were considered pulp, something to grow out of and forget about when you hit 18 or 21 or any other arbitrary age. But almost 80 years later, they're some of the best-selling stories in publishing right now, spawning countless film franchises and launching their respective studios into legend status. Something to be enjoyed by all ages and all walks of life, telling stories that are as heartwarming as they are heart-wrenching. It's no different with NIER. In NIER, there's a moment that's heartbreaking and touching in a lot of ways for a lot of different reasons, and it's not only crushing, but it's a true cinematic twist, on par with something you'll find in any best-selling thriller novel or a critically acclaimed HBO series with a horrible last season. It happens in the middle of the game, not the end, with 2B, our protagonist, bleeding out on a cliff somewhere, allowing herself to stop fighting, an idea that's been looming on the edges of this story and the entire game. After she dies, the story arc for 9S turns to something more akin to real, genuine human grief than anything I've ever played before. It's beautiful, but horrendously sad. And it's this sadness, that humanity, that gives this game a clear indication of being something worth more than just playing. Most games do their best to make characters seem unkillable, a trope that's common in most media and one that rarely gets broken. One of the biggest tropes you'll see in gaming, especially RPGs, is that your character has no weaknesses. It can do anything with enough work. It can become anything. You can become anything. You can be a leader of a band of cutthroat assassins and the high mage of a country all in one playthrough. NIER takes this idea and turns it on its head. All of its characters are flawed, all of its characters have damage, and all of its characters are a long way from invincible paragons their superhero types tend to be. This game goes far beyond what Tetris or Mario intended video games to be. It makes the point that games aren't just time wasters, they're art, and they can tell a message that's just as impressive and important as any media. The current dialogue on video games is generally pretty grim, with the medium being blamed on everything from bullying and mass shootings. And I think now it's more important to realize that people have been blaming popular media for violence since its inception. Despite any thoughts or feelings of any US president, it's just an easy way out. But hey, that's just a theory. A game! Oh wait, we can't say that. We'll get sued, right?